It's February 2017, and the night sky over Tepic, Mexico, bursts into chaos. The quiet nighttime peace of the Linda Vista neighborhood explodes in fireworks. Mexican law enforcement exchanges bullets with cartel gunmen, shot after shot of gunfire ricocheting through the streets. However, this isn't just any firefight. A new and horrifying sound breaks through the tumult, a bone-crunching roar that chills the spine. Tracers are fired from the newly mounted minigun, lighting up the sky. With its terrifying ability to shoot thousands of rounds per minute, this terrifying weapon turns the night into a terrifying exhibition of power. The battle lines are redrawn in the face of this mechanized assault. In the haze of smoke, one question lingers. How did a drug cartel even get access to these war weapons? Join us as we explore this mystery. Technical description of the minigun. That was no ordinary handgun that ripped through this Tepic night. The weapon was a 6-barreled Gatling-style machine gun called the M134 minigun, and it was an engineering marvel. Imagine a drill on drugs, spitting out lead rather than wood chips in its frenzied stupor. That's what the minigun is all about. It's 6 barrels which are fed by a continuous belt of 7 62 x 51 mm NATO ammunition, the same type used in powerful rifles, spin at an astounding rate. The barrels spin at an accelerating rate up to 6,000 revolutions per minute as the motor roars to life. This produces a centrifugal force that helps the gun cool down and avoid overheating, in addition to keeping the ammunition fed smoothly. The outcome is obvious, a terrible dance of devastation. Every time the barrel rotates, a bullet shoots out of it faster than 2,800 feet per second. Since that is faster than sound by more than 3 times, the target probably succumbs before they hear the gun's loud roar, so no one sees it coming. However, the real threat posed by the minigun is its rate of firing. It can fire off a torrent of 2 to a whopping 6,000 rounds per minute, depending on model and settings. That's the same as shooting a weapon through its whole magazine in a split second. Imagine an extended flash of fire so intense that it forms an entire wall of lead, strong enough to rip through cars and defenses in its path. The minigun does have some disadvantages despite its amazing capability. Without ammo, it's a heavy beast weighing in at over 250 pounds. This requires a mounted position, typically on a robust tripod or a car. Moreover, the sheer mass of a fire produces enormous heat, necessitating a steady supply of air or water to cool down. The minigun's unmatched power and continuous fire make it a terrifying weapon in spite of these drawbacks. When used by a skilled soldier, it can be an extremely effective weapon for stopping enemy fire and evacuating strongholds. However, when it ends up in the wrong hands, as it did in Tepic, it represents unbridled aggression and the blurred lines between military power and illicit ambition, historical and tactical context. The violent streets of Tepic were not intended for the minigun. It was born in the furnace of the Vietnam War and is a byproduct of the American military apparatus. When General Electric developed it in 1963, it wasn't intended to be used in the same home tasks as washing machines and refrigerators. This was a weapon intended to do one thing and one thing only: to evaporate people, in the words of some of its designers. Although it is officially known as the M134, its colloquial name, minigun, sums up its purpose very well. It is a more compact and lightweight variant of the traditional Gatling gun. Its capacity to unleash a deadly torrent of firepower made it a favorite among soldiers due to its speed, lethality, and dependability. From the wide battlefields of Germany and Turkey to the deep jungles of Vietnam, the minigun established its effectiveness, gaining a reputation as a weapon that could destroy entire enemy positions in a matter of seconds. In certain circumstances, some even believe it to be a more lethal option than the atomic bomb. The minigun has gone beyond the line of combat to become a symbol of unadulterated might in pop culture. The Terminator and James Bond's enemies choose it as their go-to weapon, which is evidence of its formidable reputation. The line dividing Hollywood horror from real-life horror began to blur in 2023 when the minigun made its horrifying debut in the Mexican drug wars. Narcotics claimed for years that Nemesio El Mencho Oseguera Cervantes, the notorious drug lord, owned this horrifying weapon. Authorities and the public alike hoped the tale was a cartel myth, but that horrifying nightmare actually came to pass in 2023, only a year ago. The incident began in Cotija, Michoacan, when a mounted minigun quickly tore through whole pickup trucks, proving that it was capable of destroying anything in its way. El Mencho's troops engaged in gang warfare in Michoacan, Jalisco, and Zacatecas. Subsequent inquiries revealed that the CJNG, also known as the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, had a minimum of 12 miniguns. The line between criminal ambition and military might had been erased by the drug war, which had escalated to an entirely new and dangerous level. The ramifications were terrifying. Profile of El Mencho and CJNG. Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, also known as El Mencho, will always cast a long shadow over Mexico. This terrifying individual is the leader of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, CJNG, one of the most powerful and dangerous criminal groups in the country. El Mencho's rise to fame did not begin with the opulent homes of gangs and vast drug labs. Raised in extreme poverty in Michoacan, he dropped out of school and fled to the United States, where he most likely continued honing his criminal skills. After being deported in the early 1990s, he joined the Milenio Cartel and rose through the ranks to become a prominent figure. However, El Mencho's aspirations would not stop there. The breakup of the Milenio Cartel in 2009 presented an opportunity. El Mencho took it and used it to unite with other like-minded individuals to form the CJNG. Under his leadership, the CJNG grew frightfully fast, motivated by violence and a ruthless conquest of territory and power. They gained notoriety and the fearsome moniker Matasetas, Zetas killers, for their part in weakening their opponents, the Los Zetas cartel, by using severe techniques. The CJNG possesses authority beyond its violent tendencies. They have become a major player in the global drug trade, concentrating on methamphetamine, heroin, and the deadly synthetic opioid fentanyl. Their impact extends beyond the borders of Mexico because their activities span the Americas and even Europe. As a result of their expansion and growing armament, which includes miniguns, the CJNG has emerged as a significant target for Mexican and American law enforcement. El Mencho remains a mysterious figure to this day. He is extremely private, his public demeanor a well-manicured facade. Despite coming dangerously close to getting slayed in 2018, he escaped capture, further solidifying his reputation as a cunning and ruthless commander who's impossible to catch. The generous rewards offered for his arrest serve as evidence of the threat he poses. El Mencho and the CJNG represent a remarkable uptick in the intensity of Mexico's drug wars and a sobering reminder of the terrible consequences of uncontrollable criminal ambition. Theft and importation strategy. El Mencho isn't renowned for following the law. He is well known to have devised a cunning and frankly brave smuggling plan to acquire military-grade weapons, including the infamous miniguns. Here's where things get interesting. According to Mexican officials, El Mencho was inspired by a Johnny Cash song, One Piece at a Time, for its concept of putting something together piece by piece. Instead of a car like Johnny Cash, El Mencho's goal was to put together a terrible combat weapon. His idea was to break down the miniguns into their component pieces to make it easier to get them past Mexico's military barriers. As soon as they crossed the border, these disassembled guns vanished into the night. After hiding in covert workshops to avoid prying eyes, the next performer took the stage. Here, skilled specialists meticulously reassembled the miniguns, bringing fresh life to these lethal weapons. Now remember, El Mencho's thirst for power is not one that can be quenched. For this drug lord, having miniguns wasn't enough. He longed for an edge, a way to outfight his rivals in battle. Reassembled weapons allegedly had their deadly qualities customized, especially for brutal ground fights between competing gangs. Military-grade miniguns had undergone a complete transformation, becoming terrible weapons of mass destruction. This fearless smuggling operation highlights a concerning trend: the blurring of the lines separating drug gangs and armed military forces. The CJNG's growing armament, which includes these illegally acquired miniguns, is a stark reminder of Mexico's escalating danger. El Mencho allegedly bought these miniguns from the black market in order to get past legitimate military protocols and acquire weapons meant for official militaries, according to Mexican authorities. These weapons, intelligence said, were disassembled, each part moved in secret, and then painstakingly reassembled in underground workshops. Journalist Oscar Balderas claims that the CJNG modified these miniguns for use in ground combat, potentially making them more lethal than their original military versions. The cartel allegedly altered these pistols' serial numbers and added their own markings to turn them into symbols of their power known as the miniguns del Mencho. The ramifications are horrendous. These days, cartels like the CJNG do more than just sell drugs. In addition, they assemble military-grade weaponry and modify them to wreak maximum harm. Impact and social media strategy. Social media has become a crucial tool in the drug cartels of Mexico's armory. Previously perceived as a channel for texting and blogging, these online discussion boards have now become a combat zone for the CJNG and its enemies. Here, the cartels employ a multidimensional strategy, taking command of all social media in order to accomplish their illegal goals. Getting support from the general people is one tactic. Cartels put a lot of work into crafting their online personas, attempting to present themselves as Robin Hood figures challenging an unjust system on behalf of the less fortunate. This propaganda machine aims to inspire fear or even sympathy for the cartels by attempting to alter people's perceptions. Social media, though, is more than just image management. It can also be used to dehumanize rivals. Cartels ruthlessly propagate rumors and threats through these channels in an attempt to weaken and demoralize their enemies. Anybody daring enough to disagree with them is sent a cryptic warning via graphic movies depicting questionable content and compliance techniques. If you get it, you get it. If you don't, you're a goner. Furthermore, social media plays a part in putting drug culture on a pedestal. Cartel leaders are shown as strong, wealthy, and living crazy, luxurious lives. By glamorizing these acts, these internet depictions of violence and drug use have the potential to entice vulnerable kids looking to make a buck into a life of violent crime. The most concerning development is probably the organization of violence through social media. Cartels effectively plot and carry out orders in virtual war rooms that are created by encrypted chats and online forums. Their internet collaboration makes them a more unexpected and undefeatable menace. Cartel activity affects social media in ways that go beyond simply aiding illegal activity. On the internet, misinformation may spread dangerously, generating uncertainty and fear. For journalists under fear or intimidation, social media often becomes their primary information source, especially in places where violence is rampant. However, a lot of the time, this information is false and manufactured, which puts the average Joe in far greater danger. El Mencho is a shining example of this kind of tech-savvy social media weaponization. Even though he works in the shadows, he deliberately uses online platforms to send signals to his competitors and even the broader public. These messages could be anything from threats to kind reassurances to the masses. On social media, he is said to have threatened a rival leader that he was the next on the cartel's blacklist. This incident also showed off the CJNG's growing arsenal, as its uniformed soldiers could not be distinguished from regular forces. Getting miniguns like the M134 is just another step toward the CJNG's further expansion. With the addition of miniguns to their arsenal, in addition to standard AK-47 their arsenal now has the same power as the military. This growth in weapons, along with their understanding of contemporary social media, paints a dire picture. There are now more gaps than ever between law enforcement and the cartels, as the notorious victory in the skies of Tepic demonstrated. This is a horrifying reminder of the conflict in Mexico, where vicious people like El Mencho have been crowned as unlawful kings in the middle of a desolate wasteland. It's all very dystopian, to say the least.